Thank you so much for joining us today. For those of you that I haven't met in person, I know it says my name right there, Adam Pearl. I'm President and CEO of ArtPride New Jersey. I'm so glad that you could join us this morning for what I believe is our 10th COVID-19 webinar, and some very important topics, as Anne-Marie just said. So I will just quickly thank folks for coming. And say that throughout this, we have questions and answers at the bottom. You have the chat feature. You can also raise your hand. Anne-Marie and I and the team wanted to start with this message that we released earlier this week. For those that don't know, ArtPride's commitment to this work and certainly work that's left to be done for the organization. And I thought, we thought it was worthy of taking a moment here and worthy of saying it again, because it's important to say over and over. ArtPride supports those protesting the structural racism that plagues our country and stands in solidarity with our Black artists, audiences, colleagues, and partners. Go for it, Anne-Marie. Let's do it together.
As we work to elevate and empower creativity, we do so because the arts give voice to the marginalized and bring people together to celebrate our differences. Go ahead, Vince.
The arts are a powerful tool for social justice and education, and we will continue to listen and learn.
So we wanted to share just a couple of resources. We're not the experts here. We're on our own journey, but the National Museum of African American History and Culture has an excellent website talking about race, and the link is there. And another significant New Jersey resource is the New Jersey Institute for Social Justice. Has a lot of information that you can turn to for guidance. We want to ask everyone on the webinar today to please take this CARES Act funding impact survey, whether or not you have applied for PPP, whether or not you have applied for unemployment. It's really important for us to understand where we fall in the total perspective for New Jersey, finding out today that PPP New Jersey ranks 9th in the number of applications funded, and 8th in the amount of funding coming through PPP, yet 86% of small businesses have not yet applied or received it. So we really want to know where the arts fall in this. So please use that link. The deadline is June 10th. Meanwhile, updates in DC. I guess everybody knows by now that the Senate passed the Payroll Protection Program Flexibility Act with revisions to the current PPP. Borrowers will now have the choice to extend the covered period all the way up to December 31st. The forgiveness formula on allowable use of funds has changed to be more flexible and allow more overhead expenses. And also, for any amount of the PPP loan not forgiven, the term of the loan would extend from 2 to 5 years, still with the low rate of 1%. What's happening next in DC, negotiations will continue through July to get the next phase of CARES funding, whether it's the HEROES Act or whatever, and the next phase ends up being passed, approved by the US Senate. The HEROES Act has already passed in the House. One other thing, I wanted to recommend this to everybody on the call. The Data Arts in combination with TRG Arts has this short document called In It for the Long Haul. The link is there to review it. It's really, really, really worth reviewing. It gives you some perspective on the considerations that are the most critical as you begin to planning for reopening. This was this morning on medium.com, going back to our arts and healing. I thought, just add, besides relieving stress and engaging the whole brain, hands-on artistic pursuits are a form of neurobics. That's the first time I've actually heard that term. Kat says, arts build connections between the neurons and stimulates the brain to grow new ones by using the senses in new ways. So we know this, but there's growing evidence. So right now, what I want to do is introduce you and thank, first of all, the New Jersey Economic Development Authority for their real cooperation in helping us get Matt today. We had Monica for phase one. He's going to walk you through the EDA grants that will become available, I believe, on Tuesday. And Matt's there on the screen, and I'm going to bug out, and he's going to walk you through this.
Thank you, Anne-Marie. Thank you, Adam. And thank you to ArtPride New Jersey for allowing me the opportunity to speak to you about NJEDA's various economic relief program. Most importantly, the phase two of our grant program is what I'm going to really be focusing in on. If you could go to the next slide. Just to go through this quickly, we created our economic plan around a few key principles. One was to partner up with organizations and municipalities, organizations like ArtPride and municipalities and counties to get the information out. Two was to leverage funding to help as many businesses as we can. So we've leveraged from the private sector, from the federal government, and our own funds that we've used for the various programs that we've stood up during this pandemic. And three was to provide the assistance to businesses, whether it was our grant program or our loan programs. Next slide. Our relief package consists of, like I said, the grants and the loans. We did also provide some funding to CDFIs, which help micro businesses. We have a guarantee program that will be coming out hopefully within a short period of time, that we are going to be working with our preferred lender banks to guarantee a portion of their line of credits for businesses. And then we also have an entrepreneur support program. We have partnered up with organizations to provide technical assistance to businesses and organizations. Organizations like African American Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey, the New Jersey State Veterans Chamber of Commerce, Rising Tide Capital, statewide Hispanic Chamber of Commerce of New Jersey. And those are just a few that we've partnered up with to provide technical support, not only on our application, but to provide technical support for those who needed assistance on the SBA funding. You can go to the next slide. Our phase one grant program, as most of you who've joined us on the first go round heard from Monica, it was a success in the sense that it was oversubscribed, and we saw the big need for it. So our initial grant was oversubscribed in a short period of time. But the good news is those who are waitlisted, we are allocating another $5 million for those that were waitlisted. So if you applied and you were waitlisted, there was an email that went out to you. I believe it was last week the emails had gone out, either last week or early this week, to let you know that the second batch of applicants would be reviewed for to be eligible for the grant. If you did not receive that email, then you should reapply for phase two grant program, which I'll highlight. Next slide. The two most important key takeaways that I would like for all of you to walk away with today is, one, this Tuesday, June 9th at 9 a.m., our phase two grant program will go live. So please mark your calendars. Again, this Tuesday, June 9th at 9 a.m., our phase two grant program will go live. Second, important, if you don't hear anything else from me, or if I spoke too quickly and you didn't catch everything I said, the second most important takeaway from this presentation is to make sure you visit our portal at cv.business.nj.gov. I will highlight that into the chat group so that you guys will have a link as well. As soon as I could try, maneuver and get into the chat.
Take the moment now, Matt. I wanted to jump in to add too, to remind everyone on the call, because I know in Anne-Marie's update and in your presentation, there's a lot of links, that this whole presentation is being recorded, the whole webinar is recorded, and you can go to ArtPride's COVID resources page. It'll be up later today. The staff works really hard to get it up same day. So you can go over there. So we'll throw a couple links in the chat, but to not sort of divide information, just a reminder to everybody that, if you miss something, you want to go back and see it, or you want to review something, or you couldn't make it to the webinar 1 week, it's always there.
Excellent. All right, so I put the link in. So those are the two big takeaways. So let me go through the phase 2 program in a little bit more detail. The business eligibility is, this time we've expanded it. Our phase 1 only allowed businesses with 10 employees or less. This round, we're able to allow businesses with 25 employees or less. Again, we're trying to concentrate on the small businesses that have the biggest need. Again, you can aggregate part-time employees. So if you have multiple part-time employees, you can go on and check our calculator for eligibility, put in the hours, and 2 or 3 part-time could equal a full-time equivalent. The max amount of award is up to 10,000. First phase was up to 5,000. This time we're able to go up to 10,000. We have expanded it to allow for sole prop, as well as home-based businesses, as well as 1099. So if you're a 1099 and you have your own if you have your own business and you're a 1099 employee for your own business, you could also apply. Your award would be for $1,000. Go ahead, Adam.
Yeah, so I have a question here, and I don't know if this applies to here or maybe it's a broader question than this program, but Martin Anderson is asking, are there any New Jersey grants or loans available for a sole proprietor LLC, one-person business where the owner does not pay themselves on W-2 or 1099, but just pays themselves with profits left over after expenses are paid?
Yeah, so that's where we expanded this program to allow for that. So you would be eligible for the $1,000.
Thank you, Matt.
You got it.
Thank you for the question, Mark.
Yeah, keep hitting me up with some questions. I think that's the best way to understand, because whatever question you might have, others probably have the same exact, so I have no problems. The other part is that we still have nonprofit entities that still will be eligible. So if you're a 501c3, like ArtPride, or 501c4, a 501c7, you are all eligible for this grant program. There is a material financial need that has to be met, but I think everyone has met this, because we've all gone through the pandemic. We've all had to shut down. We all had business interruptions. So that's what you're going to be able to write into your application. So I don't think that's going to be an issue for anyone to meet. The entity has to be registered to do business in New Jersey at the time of the application, and has to be in operation as of February 15, 2020. So if your business was in operation during that time, you could apply for it. Any operation that started after February 15th will not be eligible. The other piece is you have to be in good standing with Department of Labor. And there is some legal questions, debarment questions, that you'll have to fill out on the application. And the application is the similar application as we did in our phase 1. So for those who went through it, you shouldn't have any problems. But to help you get prepared, we actually have sample applications available at cv.business.nj.gov, so that you could download it. It is available in multiple languages, so that if you needed it in a different language, it's available. Go ahead, Adam.
So we have a question from someone who is choosing to remain anonymous, but it's a good general question. If a nonprofit museum has 2 part-time employees who work hourly, an average of about 20 to 25 hours a week, is it possible they could be eligible for the $1,000 grant?
It is possible. So we do have an eligibility or calculator that will you can put in the hours, and it will let you know how much you'll be eligible for. Again, that's also on the same exact portal, that cv.business.nj.gov, that I'll keep repeating, because that's where you're going to get to be able to run different scenarios on your employee counts, part-time employee counts as well, to be eligible.
Absolutely. All right, we have another question from Jonathan Spinner, who I think has been on every single one of these calls and asked great questions. Are these going to be treated as grants or loans? So if you could address that. And he also wants to know if they'll have any impact on Paycheck Protection Plan loans that people have gotten.
Yeah, excellent question. I mean, all of these are excellent questions. So this program is a grant program that I'm talking about. It does not have to be repaid. We do ask for best scenario in trying to rehire anyone that you've laid off. We're not going back to dock you if you don't. We don't have a compliance on that. So that's fine. As far as duplication of benefits, we do ask for about that on the application. It doesn't kick you out of our program. It just gives us a manual review to make sure that we're not providing the same benefits for the same exact clauses. So if you had PPP that provided you payroll, but now you're asking for other needs that you have in your business, inventory or whatever it is, that's fine, and you'll still be eligible for the grant.
Right. Or if you know, in an instance where your payroll exceeds the PPP, and
Yep.
you know, so all right. So there's another question that popped up here while we were talking from Marianne Lodds, and Marianne asks, "Our nonprofit got grants funds earlier than the same March, April, May 2019. Will we be considered?"
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I'm not sure if I follow. Marianne, if you could, right back as I read that out. I'm not exactly sure what we're asking here, but we'll be happy to try and answer your question. All right, why don't you go ahead, Matt, and I'll jump back on.
Yeah, okay. So in the previous first phase of the application, we actually had, we allowed for businesses of 10 employees or less to apply for it. But the max amount of the award was for 5 full-time employees, FTEs. Well, if you had 10 employees and you only received up to for the first 5 employees, but you had another 5 full-time employees, you can actually apply again for phase 2 to meet the differential. Or if so to meet the differential of the whatever you received. So if you only received a max of 5,000, you can get another 5,000 with this application. So a second set of funding. Next slide. And
I promise you, Anne-Marie is trying. Sometimes she has to close the thing and reshare. So if you know any jokes, Matt. No, I will say we do. This is worth sharing. One of the attendees, Joanne, says, "Thank you, Matt, for always being an advocate and partner, and thank you to the NJEDA for broadening the program. So sole proprietors." Oh, I lost that. Wait, this is really good. So sole proprietors, home-based businesses, and other groups excluded in the first round can now apply. Nonprofits need and deserve our help. So thanks, Matt.
Yep. Yeah, you got it. Thank you, Joanne. I appreciate that.
And you got okay. So here's Marianne's question from before, rephrased. So what I hear what Marianne's saying. So Marianne's saying the application asks for 2019 versus 2020, right? But some of us, our 2020 looks better than our 2019 because of COVID relief funds, like the Dodge Foundation released funds early, the Arts Council released funds early. People stepped up and helped. So, does that hurt us? Because of that comparison. And I noticed that too when I looked as a new thing.
Yes, no, it does not hurt you. And even if you weren't in business during that time in 2019, you just put 0 during that period and you could have a much larger 2020. It does not affect the award.
Awesome. Is that just data you guys are, the NJEDA is collecting in terms of like those that got your program and got PPP, how those businesses were doing, so that this could be analyzed for future?
Yes, that's exactly right. The need and how these businesses are structured. Yep, exactly. And it does also prove for some businesses the need, right? Because 2019 was, for a lot of companies, might have been better than 2020. So, but nonetheless, it doesn't penalize anyone that had better income in 2020 or was a new business and started after the time frame.
All right. We're going to keep moving.
Yep. All right. So to ensure funding goes to businesses and communities that need it the most, EDA also set aside $15 million of grant funding to opportunity zones, census tracts. You don't have to do anything here. The system actually will recognize if your business is within that area. Again, this is just a set aside so that we make sure that we are targeting priority areas in receiving the grant funding without excluding anyone. So in this round, we were able to get about $50 million in grant funds. We might have more, but currently that's how much we had, and then with the $15 million set aside for those opportunity zones census tracts. Next slide. So one of the things of not trying to exclude anyone is we've also made our application available in various languages. So if you go to our cv.business.nj.gov website, you can actually download an application, whether it's in Mandarin, whether it's in Spanish, whatever language you need. I think we've covered a lot of them. So you're able, Portuguese, whatever, and you're able to download it and be able to have your sample application filled out. So when the application does go live, you can just transfer the information over and be able to get through the application as quickly as possible. We want to make it as inclusive, ensuring equality and accessibility for everyone. Next slide. All right, so let's jump into the required information. As I said, we have sample applications available on our portal. We'll go through quickly later different screens of the application. We've partnered up with micro lenders. We need your contact information, your primary business address readily available. Now, I will tell you, this has been one of the issues that I've seen on some of the applications in phase 1, that people typed in the wrong business address. They put in their home address instead of putting in their business address. And so we had to then go and try to find how to do a manual scrub because it triggered it as ineligible. This time around, we have home-based businesses that are eligible, so it won't be as much of an issue. But if your business does have a commercial location, make sure you put your business address in there. If you received other funding, as I said earlier, just be prepared to provide that information. We just need to do that as data collection and to make sure that we're not duplicating benefits, so that if we have different timelines, that's fine. Like Adam said, if you receive PPP, but it was for 8 weeks, we could do the other number of weeks that PPP did not cover. Know your full business legal name. This is also another critical piece that's come up as we send out our commitment and our funding or our wire to business owners. We were getting dinged back from taxation or from usually taxation, saying that this was not the exact legal name. So make sure you have your formation document or your tax return to make sure you have the right full legal name in the application. Make sure you pick the right entity type, the date of the year that your business was established, your EIN, tax ID number, the head count of March 31st, 2020, full-time, part-time, independent contractors, 1099, and then your NAICS code, which is your North American Industry Classification System. Now, the application will give you an option, if you don't know it, to be able to look it up. But I would tell you, be ready now by going into the sample application to be able to look up your NAICS code today so that you're ready on Tuesday to be able to just type it in. But if you don't do it, the application will walk you through the steps to be able to identify the right NAICS code. I say this because the funding is really, the funding is on first come, first served basis. So there is somewhat of a race to finish aspect in this, and to make sure the information is complete and correct. That's why I'm trying to get you to be prepared. So once at 9 o'clock, June 9th hits, you're in the application live, putting in the information and getting through it as quickly as you can. Revenues for March to May of 2019 compared to March to May of 2020. Again, as I mentioned, as Adam mentioned with the question earlier, it does not make you ineligible if your income is higher in 2020. That's a good thing. That's for if you do. It doesn't. We don't penalize you with just getting that data. Next screen.
Oh, Emery's got you back. Okay. Sorry about that.
No, Adam, I wish I had a list of jokes I could have rattled off.
Is it real quick question? Does this mean March through May or March to May? Like, does that include March and May?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, it's comparing that 3-month period.
All right, back to it.
One screen before this. Oh, okay, go ahead, go to the next screen. All right, so I apologize. So this is a look of our grant application. This is the first screen. It gives you the eligibility. These are all check boxes. Do you have less than 25 full-time equivalent employees? Are you in good standings? Are you currently registered as a business in New Jersey with taxation? Are you aware of any reporting deficiencies? Because we do go back to the Labor Department and to our taxation to see if there's any pending issues. Next screen. Here's just your contact information. Again, business name is critical to put the right legal entity. And then if you have DBA, to put in the DBA information there as well. Phone number where we could reach you. This is not the phone number to your business that is closed. This is a phone number so we can call you so that we can get your bank information to wire you your funds. So we've had to go searching sometimes. Thank goodness for Google and all these other search engines where we're able to find people in there and you'll call them up. So this is a phone number that is ideally would be your cell phone number. I mean, that's what you want to do. An email that we can contact you at. It doesn't have to be your business address if you don't business email. It's an email that you're going to look at often, so that if we do have a question, if taxation has an issue, we could alert you to it so that you could try to resolve it. Primary business address that you want to put in. Next screen. Entity type, whether you're a sole prop, LLC, C Corp, S Corp, partnership, 501c3, C4, C7, or other, whether it's a real estate holding company, an estate, this is where you want to put your entity type. The year that your company was established, your number of full-time employees, part-time employees, and 1099 employees. This is where you can also put in seasonal as well. Your your tax identification number. And then here on the where on the bottom is your company recognized as any of the following: small business, minority-owned, women-owned, veteran-owned, disabled-owned. Just click whatever applies. This is just self-reporting and self-identified. It does not push you up the line or down the line. It doesn't have anything to do with eligibility. It's more for us to track the data to say we've helped X amount of women-owned businesses. Just for it's for more of a data gathering for us. If you don't feel comfortable in answering any of those, that's fine. You can leave it blank. It does not penalize you. Next screen. Here is the NAICS code of your business. There is a hyperlink that you could go and look through to find your NAICS code if you don't have it. If you clicked in no, it does go through a series of questions to help you identify your NAICS code as well. Next screen. A lot of this information will be pre-populated with options, so you could just click down if you chose that you didn't know your NAICS code. So you could choose the sector and industry, and then they'll kick back a NAICS code, and then you'll just have to confirm it with that checkbox. Next screen. Home-based businesses are allowed in round 2 of the funding. So here, if you put yes, it does not penalize you. And these are just basic business detail information that we're trying to ask you. I will say, if you are a gambling entity or have gambling as your primary business, it is ineligible. If you're a sin business, it is ineligible to receive any funding. Bankruptcy, we'd like to know about. Pop-up stores and vendors like those are ineligible for this phase. Same with outdoor storage, and these are just other questions that they're going to ask you. Next screen. So here, you're going to answer where you deemed an essential business as defined by the executive order. Again, this is not for eligibility purposes, more for informational purposes. If your business remained open, is it normal levels or less? Then here is the dollar value impact that we spoke about over the 3 months on your business to compare the two. Again, it doesn't affect your eligibility. Next screen. Here is where we ask about the duplication of benefits. So if you did receive funding, whether it was first round of our grant program, whether it was SBA funding, this is where we're going to ask you to be able to highlight that. And then it gives you a list of all the different funding sources and asks for amounts. Next screen.
Maybe take some questions now while I kick back.
Sure, go for it. I'll go for it. All right, so we had a couple questions here. We know you had a lot to go through, Matt, so we wanted to give you some runtime there and let a few of the questions pile up. All right, so we're going to ask a couple here. Can the primary business address be a PIO Box, because many arts organizations don't have a physical business?
A PIO Box. I would advise, well, I haven't seen PIO. That's a good one.
I stumped you. I tried to give you the easy one. There's like 5 questions here, and I was like, oh, that one seems easy.
Yeah.
It's okay to say I don't know.
I'd probably advise more of just putting in the home address at that point then.
Gotcha. All right. There's a few more questions here, Matt, but do you want to finish the last couple slides there and then come back to these, or you want to?
No, I was actually kind of boring myself in my book.
Okay, you were boring yourself. Okay. What about salaries for other non-payroll people, like designers and editors who do gig work? So I guess that would be for paying out to independent contractors, right? That I guess is that question.
Yeah. So they wouldn't be eligible under your business, but they themselves could apply for their own funding, which helps you if you have, let's say you have the max amount, 10 employees, and then you had 5 independent contractors. Those 5 independent contractors could apply themselves for their own grant so that you're not getting less for your own business.
So maybe for some of our arts organizations, it's about sort of educating those independent contractors they're working with to be like, no, we can't apply for you, but here's the information about how you can apply yourself.
Yes.
All right. So another question here. It says, do organizations that submitted for the first round of EDA funding and were turned down because the EDA ran out of money, do they have an inside track for the next round, or are they just thrown in again sort of with everyone?
I'm sorry.
So like folks who apply but were shut out because they ran out. Now that they're going back into phase 2, are they like, is it ahead of those that didn't previously apply, or is everyone who's going into phase 2 then equal?
Got it. So we've put another 5 million into the wait list. So we took that batch of wait list. Everyone beyond that. So if you did not receive an email saying that we're reviewing your file for grant, then you'll have to reapply. I apologize, but you would have to reapply with everyone else.
Gotcha. And I will say that one of your colleagues just sent chat about was it Rachel, who said we're gonna connect Rachel on the person who had the question about the PIO Box. So follow up on previous eligibility question. On screen 3 of the application, there are boxes for listing a number of full-time W-2, part-time W-2, and 1099 employees. It looks like those are all required fields. What if none of those apply? What if there's just one employee paid from profits and not on W-2 or 1099?
Yeah, so sole props would have or 1099 employees that they're or home-based businesses that have themselves only would put zeros there.
Gotcha. All right. Question about full-time employees as of March 31, 2020. If layoffs occurred prior to that date, for instance, this is Steve Steiner who put his name there. Hi, Steve. Steve's saying they had 17 full-time employees in February and 1 full-time employee as of March 31st. Does that mean they're only eligible for $1,000?
No, you're going to be eligible for the 10 employees as long as you make the best efforts in rehiring them.
All right. And I guess this is a follow-up question to what you just asked, because it's Jonathan asking again. How do we respond to the question about applying for the first round of NJEDA when we were turned down? Will that force an immediate turn down in this round?
So some people were turned down on phase 1 because they had more than 10 employees. I would say a lot of those applications came in, so they had automatic declines. So if you had more than 10 employees and you applied and you had an automatic decline, reapply if you have less than 25. Not an issue. Some were declined. I think that was like the biggest hurdle. But depending on what your declination was, you could reapply on this. So some were, I remember. Some were home-based businesses. They were ineligible on phase 1. Definitely reapply in phase 2.
Gotcha. So, and Andy Chang from 90 Chen Dance Company. Hi, Andy. Has a good question there on what we were just talking about. In terms of, if you had 10 employees, you went down to 1, is it the best faith effort to rehire those same employees or to fill those positions?
Fill those positions.
Okay. All right. And sorry, just is there a specific time period during which you have to spend the funds? And then I think we go back to your presentation for now.
No.
Nope. Okay. All right. I think that's the question for now. Let's go back to your Emery. Are we able to go back to the presentation, or? I know she's trying. Oh, there we go. All right.
So here we do ask for additional background information. You can go to the next one. And it's really a lot of it is the debarment questions. If you had some prior convictions, so you'll have to answer these. If you had any issues, whether it's prior convictions or information, there'll be another dialog box that comes up that you could try to explain it, and also you would want to if you can upload information into it to say whether or not if it's still pending or if it's been settled. Next. And then last part of it, the application is really your certification, making sure that you're not making any false statements and you could be persecuted, that you are in good standings with Department of Labor and Law and Public Safety, best efforts to not lay off employees and to rehire those who already have been let go. Again, it's best efforts that we're asking for. So I don't want people to get stuck with saying, oh, how am I going to rehire anyone if I'm still losing money? I can't hire back, the numbers. So we understand. We're trying to work with you. I'm sure everyone's been impacted with COVID-19, so that should be an easy one to be able to certify. And is this grant needed by my business? I would say for the most part, a lot of people still need funding to keep their businesses going. And if that's the case, please click and certify. If you don't need the funding, in which we've seen people giving back some funding on our loan side, saying we've gotten funding from the federal government that's not enough for us, then that's fine too. Yep. And then here you're going to just finalize by certifying and clicking on the digital signature, and that we're able to share your information with taxation. You can go to the next screen. Here is certification of your information, making sure that we got the right information. Again, we're going to ask you for your tax ID number. We're going to ask this a few times, so just make sure that you have that available to you. And like I said, you're going to just electronically sign it. Next screen. It'll generate an application number. Hold on to that application number. You could also, we're going to be able to have a status lookup is what our intent is, so that you can see where your application is in the process, but you can also email as well. Next. So I spoke about how you can go on to our grant size estimator through our cv.business.nj.gov website. This is what the estimator looks like. You just put in whatever names. Again, this is just an estimator for you to work in. You can put John Doe 4 times, it doesn't matter. You just put your quarterly wages, and it'll tell you what your FTE equivalent will be. So those who have part-time employees, here's where you want to put that information. Next screen. We work with all these different CDFIs out there to provide funding to them so that they can help small businesses as well. So companies like New Jersey Community Capital, UC EDC, Regional RBAC, CBAC, Greater Newark Enterprise Corporation, and First Bergen Federal Credit Union. We've worked with all of them to provide some funding to them so that they in turn could provide loans. So if you're unable to get loans from other resources, definitely reach out to any of those entities. Next screen. And these are the information. So it looks like Rachel has answered the question. They can enter a PIO Box as their location, assuming the PIO Box is in New Jersey. Thank you, Rachel. Next slide. So we created a fund to assist investors to help keep the entrepreneur funding spirit alive. So there are entrepreneurs out there that they're starting up new technologies or new businesses, and they need investors to still fund them to keep growing, to keep this economy growing. So we've put some funding into the investors, which is really more of a guarantee program to some of these investors, so that the investors don't shy away from continuing to keep the entrepreneur spirit alive and going. Next screen. So we still have our core programs that we're assisting companies with. We have our micro business loans, which provide up to $50,000 in working capital or for equipment. We have our small business fund, which provides businesses up to $500,000. We have our direct loan program, which provides up to $2 million for fixed asset. And we work with most preferred lenders. We work with the most lenders out there. We do have a list of preferred lenders, about 25 different preferred lenders. You can look up our website that we work with, that we can participate on their loans. We can also provide up to $750,000 in working capital. And these are all different types of loans that we still have that we've done since the inception of EDA to help businesses continue to grow. We have launched the PPE Supply Registry to facilitate protective gear, COVID protective gear. So if you've repurposed your company and you're making PPEs, please register your company so that suppliers and vendors, companies could connect. So we have more than 1,000 registered businesses providing all types of products. So this is a great resource. We thank you for those who have repurposed themselves to help in this need. Next slide. So we've created, the governor has created an advisory council. It's to help bring different leaders from different industries and diversities into the group, a community organization to help with the restart of our economy. And Tim is going to be in that, he's a part of that, co-chairing that committee. Next slide. This is additional resources. Again, these are the portals that was created. One for information on businesses, to help with assistance, to get information out, not only for loans and grants, but to help businesses or to help everyone understand the impact of COVID, where to go, who to talk to, what the state is doing. So not just on a business level, but on a full scale level. So these are the various locations that you can go to. We also have a portal that was created for those to hire people, so that we have companies that have signed up saying, hey, we need employees to cover. And we do have a lot of businesses that are hiring, not just the Amazons of the world, but including Amazons of the world, fulfillment centers. We have a large meat manufacturing company that is looking to fill more of their staffing because they have high demand. Different businesses that are looking for more employees to hire. SBA is continuing to hire as well because they need people to review their loans. So if you are a business and you are looking to hire, you would want to go here to this portal to list your company. If you have employees that are looking for jobs, send them to this portal, to jobs.covid19.nj.gov as well, to help them reestablish themselves in the workforce. And that's all for me.
Matt, thank you so much. We have a couple of questions here before we let you go. So on the screen that asks about other places you've applied or received funding from, there's a question there about, and I forget how it's phrased, I know I looked at the application the other day, but about funding from state or county or municipal applications. Janice Rollo's asking specifically about the New Jersey Council for Humanities, but can you just go back to that one particular question and sort of explain what they're looking for there?
So what we're trying to do is reduce duplication of benefits. This funding that we had going is really from the federal government, and they have certain guidelines. One of the guidelines is that we can't provide funding to the same for the same exact same use and timeline that you've already received benefits for. So if you received benefits for, let's say, payroll from March, and you're asking again for a grant to cover payroll from March, but you've already received it, it's going to make you ineligible. Take another month, April.
Right. So does that question ask about receiving or applying?
Receiving.
So if you've applied and to the New Jersey Council for Humanities, or if you applied to other things and you haven't received that funding, that it's just about already things that are already in receipt.
Again, yeah, exactly, Adam. And again, it's just so that we are not duplicating the same funding sources for the same use.
All right, looks like we have one more question here, and then we're going to throw it back to Anne-Marie. If an organization has cash reserves, are they ineligible even if they have been impacted by closing?
It does not make you ineligible. Thank God you have cash reserves to continue to survive. That's a good thing. We want you back profitable and in business. We're not penalizing you because you have cash reserves.
Awesome. Thanks again, Matt.
want to thank Matt again for walking through, so carefully each part of the application. It's a lot of information. The slides will be available without my stopping and going back and forth later on this afternoon. I realized that when my cursor, finally figured out when my cursor tends to wander to the top bar of the Zoom bar and look at the number of participants or check the question and answers, that's when the PowerPoint freezes. So, so I will stop being nosy in the future and just keep on pressing the enter button. Thanks, Vince, for working behind the scenes. I hope, Matt, you don't have too many more of these to do today, and that you get a chance to rest over the weekend. And thanks, everybody, for being part of this. Adam, thanks for handling the questions and answers so well.
Of course.
And, everybody stay safe and have a good weekend.
Yeah, stay safe, everyone. Thank you to the entire ArtPride team, and everyone be well. Have a great weekend.
Thank you, everyone.